Welcome to the All49ers show. We're all of the 49ers. I'm Grant Cohn. That's Jose Luis Sanchez III. Get it right. So the name of the show today is I wanted to mention I got a big bottle of that Cristalino. I went to Costco and they had like a double bottle. I was just gonna get it's hella good, by the way. Thank you.
No, it's still good. It's not the same without the QR code, back from the home, but it's still it's still good. That once you go crystal, you don't go back.
It's quite delicious. I got a big bottle. Next time you come over, we'll have some. Anyway,
you gotta be a person of quality. All right. So
I needed to know.
This is why we put you on. This is why we revealed to you. We gave you like the secret code at most.
Thank you. Because I was over here drinking like Hornitos, thinking like I was cultured.
Ew.
Ew. All right. The show today is where the Niners have regressed and improved. So I want to go through a lot of people talking about how good they're going to be, how bad they're going to be. Let's go through it. I mean, we know their stats from last year where they ranked on offense and defense and all these different things. Me and Jose will predict where they're going to improve on offense, where they're going to regress on offense, and the same for defense. But first, let's do it like the news, the quarterback stuff. We're just going to do a little quarterback stuff today. A little Jimmy, a little Trey. Let's start with Trey, since he's the future of the team. And right now, it's the last time for people to get in there reports about how bad Trey's going to be. I mean, that's coming in heavy right now. And the latest one is the arm fatigue. His arm gets tired. Apparently, he needs time off. His arm gets hurt, elbow, who knows? So he's working out with Brian and Ayuk right now. Yesterday, they put out some clips of Lance throwing, and Ayuk had a little caption saying those 3 passes were the only passes of the day. After that, his arm got fatigued. Hilarious. What's your takeaway from this whole arm fatigue gate thing?
I love the clapback. I love the clapback by Ayuk. That was so clever. I was like, I like the pettiness. Well deserved. Well played. Come on, man. Come on. This is what makes me start to hate the offseason when it's talking about arm fatigue. I mean, has anyone ever heard of a quarterback in the professional football league ever hear about arm fatigue? I mean, maybe it might have. I'm wondering if Silver didn't hear like maybe inside like, oh yeah, his arm was sore after like maybe 1 or 2 practices, because they have to ramp up his arm, like more of his workload now that he is the starter. But if it's not going to be affecting him when it comes to like the season or training camp, if he actually is going to miss some practices, but especially the season where it's affecting him, then who cares? What does it matter then, right? Because if that's a point where if we see what we learn, we treat this by action. So if his action is not living up to what it is saying, then okay, now we're going to be a little bit of a question mark, a little bit of an eyebrow to raise there. But I kind of a little bit am like I'm the one that's more fatigued than his arm about all this criticism, to be honest.
The way that Colin Cowherd and Mike Silver relayed this information, they made it seem like this is the 49ers' dirty little secret and that everyone on the team knows it and they're all really concerned, but they can't say it. And that's kind of how Ryan Harris made it sound before OTAs. But the way like Trey Lance and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle responded to that post as well, the way like all the big leaders in the team are reacting to this news, they're all kind of scoffing at it, which to me makes me feel like the locker room's like, where is this coming from? Because I'm like, where is this coming from? I'm not there at, every single practice. They shut down the practices after a certain point. But I see everything I can, and I've never seen Trey Lance come out and not throw a single pass in a day while everyone else practices. So I'm wondering, where is this coming from? The players are wondering, where is this coming from? So to me, this is just one member, maybe more than one, but probably one member of the front office who is looking for an excuse to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. That's the way I interpret this. I mean, I'm sure the Niners would love to trade him for a second-round pick, but that's not going to happen. So now I think someone wants an excuse to keep him, and this could be qualified as an excuse to keep him.
Yeah, plus then you have like Ten Win, who said from the Athletics texting a coach off the record saying like, I don't even know where the hell that came from. You got other people like, it's like, okay, now it's like, what? Why now? Like, what's the guy? Why everyone's taking like the whole baseball bat and just wants to keep bashing someone without? It's like the whole thing about the unknown, and I think that's where I think it can come from maybe a coach, because coaches, win now. Can we do this? Can we use this player now? Do we have to? We don't want to wait. Even some players don't like that. That's why you even had like Robert Turbin, who on NFL Network said like, oh, I used to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. It's like it's this thing with the unknown with a lot of NFL coaches. It's why they didn't want to run with Trey Lance in the first place. It's they just knew what they know, and it's like the variable, the thing that's not a constant freaks them out.
Doesn't it seem like every time the 49ers try to trade Jimmy Garoppolo and fail, the way they try to create some momentum for him is, I can't prove it, but off the record, sort of talking down about Trey. It's almost like they're trying to build up Jimmy at Trey's expense, and they don't understand that you're really just tearing down both of your quarterbacks. You're not really building up either one. And now, again, maybe they're not talking off the record, but it seems like they freaking are.
Yeah, but then it's also going to be like the split of wondering, like, okay, how much of that came from Scangarella? People were reporting about.
I have no idea where it's coming from. It could be coming from
that thing was all messed. That's really where that's really where the whole domino effect came from. And that guy was responsible for not for the first domino or second or third. He was responsible for like the whole first like half, if not more. So that thing was like completely out of pocket that occurred. But with Lance, it's just nothing. At least you know he's not getting bought. At least you know your teammates are getting back up to you. You know, so that's a great thing to see. They're all just laughing. I'm like, this guy looks fine to me. I mean, if anything, Lance should treat this as an opportunity. He should go talk to his agent, call Gatorade, Powerade, say, hey, look, we get a little fatigued.
Yeah.
We are thirsty. Sometimes we want electrolytes to refresh us, revitalize us, recharge us.
Yeah.
And with your guys' name and likeness with Trey Lance here, with you, Gatorade, we can build a partnership and quell those rumors. So for me, Trey Lance needs to capitalize on his little slander here. So he's pretty much got to thank a little bit of Mike Silver for that.
Look, I'm not saying this whole arm fatigue thing is coming directly from John Lynch. I don't know. But I do know that John Lynch traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. And for a long time, John Lynch felt he won that trade. And there aren't a lot of big-time trades that John Lynch has definitely won. He's lost some. And for him to trade Jimmy Garoppolo for a 6th-round pick or to cut him, in his eyes and in the eyes of a lot of people, would be now admitting defeat on the Jimmy Garoppolo trade too, which is probably his biggest win. So I think from his perspective, and I don't know what he's saying or how he feels, but I think from his perspective, it's more appealing to just hold on to Jimmy Garoppolo. Don't let him go. Let him go as a free agent, because then you never really know what he was worth. You never really took that L. It's just that Trey Lance was even better and took his place, but Jimmy was still good, and Jimmy was there and available to be a backup if Trey Lance's arm got tired. I just feel like that, again, if the Bucks call up or the Browns, they're like, we're desperate, we'll give you a 2nd-round pick for Jimmy. I think everyone in the Niners would be great with that. Short of that, if Cleveland says we're desperate, we'll give you a 4th. I don't know if the Niners will do it, and I think it's because of this.
Yeah, they better do it, because this thing is like getting completely out of hand and starting to like very like, just like I said, fatigue me out. Like these guys are just setting up their own guy for just complete question marks. Like they thought last year was annoying with like people like you and other people in the media like asking about quarterback questions. Like the longer you keep Garoppolo on your roster, whether he shows up or not, especially if he shows up, by God, that's going to be extremely weird. Then you're just pretty much creating all this drama for no reason, all this like unnecessary questions that are going to piss you off. And then you're going to get pissed off at the media for asking the questions that they should be asking. And then it's just out of hand.
It's one thing to keep Trey Lance, to have both guys on the team, but to have the 21-year-old rookie be the backup. I mean, he's not going to make waves on the team. He's just trying to fit in. He's the youngest player in the league. I mean, that sort of feels natural. But the next year to flip it and have the 22-year-old be the starter and the 30-year-old who's had success on this team all of a sudden be the backup when he's healthy, I just don't think I don't think they can pull off that. I think the other one was doable. This is not. And I think what the Niners would do is just say, he's still coming back. He's not ready to play. He's still throwing. And sort of keep him inactive for a team that might want to trade for him. And then if Trey Lance's arm ever got fatigued, they can be like, oh, Jimmy's good. Jimmy's ready to play. I just don't think he'll be around the team very much unless something happens to Trey. Or, that's the way I look at it.
They're going to send him on holiday, give him an excuse, just like they did. That's what's ended up going to happen. That's the only way.
I think so. I mean, he hasn't talked to any of his,
like a snap there. That's just,
he hasn't even talked to Brian Greasy yet this year. So I can't see him actually being on the team unless Trey gets hurt and Jimmy doesn't get traded. All right, that's enough Jimmy for today. No, it's not. Just kidding.
I think they're holding him.
I'm just kidding. We're starting on Jimmy. So the report this weekend from Colin Cowherd was that he could really see. He think it makes sense for both sides, Jimmy G to the Seahawks. And then it was Jeremy Fowler who said the Seahawks have at least discussed internally the idea of bringing him on the team, which is close to tampering, but didn't say they were considering trading for him. What do you think of this potential trade, given the fact that the Seahawks have not enough cap space?
Yeah, that trade is not happening. That trade is not going to happen. Put that into the sink drawer and just flush it down the drain, whatever you want to call it. Of course they've thought about bringing him on. It's because they think the Niners are going to cut him, and they know their division rival better than most, or they should at least. Not doing the right job.
Exactly.
That's an issue there. But I think they're keeping a close eye on it. It's because I really am adamant that I think as soon as Garoppolo passes a physical, which training camp's in 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, I bet you we're going to hear that he's going to pass his physical. He's reportedly already started throwing within the last few weeks. You're going to hear him pass a physical, and then I think he's going to try to demand or request a release, because it doesn't behoove him to burn that month and a half time of training camp when he can go get ahead of the game and finally, become more of an attracted commodity to people to want to sign, to get embedded into the playbook and start building rapport, because that's really the time where you build all that synchronization. Because once that's all out the door, it's just a straight game planning from there for the rest of the season. So Seahawks, that's the only way I see it.
Publicly or privately?
For the what?
Do you think he'll request the trade publicly or privately?
A trade privately, and I think a release. If it's a trade privately, because they already kind of know, like, all right, it's the trade. We know, I meant to say release. Sorry about that. I think if he does a release, I think it's going to be made both private at first, public, but then it's going to get released out there. And I think the Niners would be okay letting it known out there, because it's like, hey, look, he wants to get released. We're player first. We'll cut him. We just didn't work. We want to do right by Jimmy because we like the guy. And that's the one thing they keep saying. We like the guy. That's it.
I just can't see the Niners giving up on this trade. They've come this far trying to trade Jimmy Garoppolo.
That's another thing.
And if he wants to get released, I could see him being like, no, buddy, you just started throwing. We're going to give this a chance. And there's another thing. Let's say they release him and he signs with the Seahawks. Because, honestly, if he's a free agent, they probably should sign him. He'd be cheap. He'd be better than what they have. Dude, the Niners home opener this year, week 2, Seattle. It just seems to me that if you're going to just give up, maybe do it after week 2. Now, I know his salary gets guaranteed and stuff, but wouldn't you want to hold on to him for a couple of weeks and let that game go by and try to trade him a few more times and then possibly give up, or just keep him as a backup rather than invite him in to Trey Lance's home opener and put that kind of pressure on the team? And that as a journalist, I hope that happens. I want to cover Lance versus Garoppolo week 2 at Levi Stadium, but I don't know if the Niners really want that smoke. That's a lot of smoke. It's a lot of anxiety, man.
That's more just noise than actual real substance, because who the hell cares if Jimmy Garoppolo's on the Seahawks and he comes down? You should be asking. You should be praying for that. Fingers crossed, release him. And if you're the Niners, how long do these guys preach about, it takes a while for these guys to learn, to practice, develop? You think Jimmy's just going to hit the ground running? You think he's even going to win automatically the starting position? Probably not. That might take a little while. That being said,
though, it's like the Niners, for whatever you want to say about how they feel about Jimmy, they have even less confidence in Trey. They have no confidence in their quarterbacks for whatever reason. So I just can see the Niners being like, I don't really want him to go to – I want him to go to Seattle. I think that would be hilarious and great. But I could just feel like John Lynch saying, I don't know. He's going to win over there.
I feel like they just love Jimmy. It's like every time they talk so much praise about him, they never really cite anything that's great about him on the field wise. They just said stupid things like, "Who's a leader? He's a winner. He executes, whatever." But they never can cite something. With Trey Lance, that's the one thing. Yes, that's the one thing you can notice. They do give him that. It's just they just love the guy, dude. They love the guy. You compare him to Baker Mayfield. They couldn't wait to get rid of him. So, you look at the opposite situation where you have a quarterback who also is supposed to be out of the move, but they like him and they're a little more hesitant to let him go for at least like peanuts. So, that's where I think is the difference is, you got a quarterback you like, or even just a player you like, but you really want the quarterback to be like a stand-up guy, not someone who's like a toxic, who's someone like, short case of like an a-hole like that, you want to be able to like him. So I think these guys are so embedded with him. And then you mentioned John Lynch. He might also have like his fingerprints on that, maybe somehow holding on to them there, where, we just can't let him go. We know what he's worth. And that's where they're really overvaluing what he's worth, because if he was worth anywhere near what the Niners have been holding him near and dear to, he'd been gone already then. But the league's telling you what they think of him.
Yeah, and I don't see any team trading for Jim unless it's Cleveland and they make a really, really desperate bad move. I don't see, and I've felt this way all offseason, the idea of giving the Niners something so you can take back Jimmy and his $24 million this year doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. Now, if Jimmy Garoppolo were a free agent and you could sign him for $5 million, sure. Who cares? Why not? Give it a shot. But trading for this contract, that doesn't make any freaking sense. So, I mean, I don't think Seattle's definitely not that stupid. They don't even have the cap space to do it. But I'm sure there are like 4 or 5 teams, kind of like buzzards, kind of circling, waiting for the Niners to cut bait. And they might be interested if it was on the sale rack, it being Jimmy Garoppolo.
And Pete Carroll wants to win. I mean, that guy is like in the 70s, whatever hell old he is. They're not gonna try to fold the season. At least he knows, like, hey, Jimmy's starting caliber player. He's played on a proven winner team the same way all these head coaches think. So, like you said, give him like a 5-year deal. I mean, excuse me, 5-year deal, $5 million deal for this year, and then maybe kick it up to like 8 or 9 if he wins the job or does incentives or something.
What about when Baker Mayfield wins the job in Carolina? Sam Darnold to Seattle. Not that he's good, but there's the USC connection.
Yeah, and they can't cut him either because he's guaranteed. Or I guess they could. Well, I don't know. Come on, the Panthers #1. That's already a weird job to begin with. That's a circus going over there. Matt Rule, all those guys, what they've done over there, they've really messed up.
Yeah.
But I think that's one. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of clear Baker's going to win the job. I mean, he's
saying. And it seems like Carroll likes to give USC guys a second chance. Is there a little connection? He just signed Uchenna Nwosu this offseason, went to USC. I don't know. Something to think about. I mean, he knows Jimmy, man. Although, who would you rather have, Jimmy or Darnold?
Jimmy. I'm not taking Darnold after last year, dude. I'm not taking Darnold after last year. Darnold was stinky. That guy was blue cheese to me.
You think Jimmy would have been better on Carolina?
Yes. Yes, to be honest. Yeah, I think so.
I might take Darnold because, I mean, Darnold might be the only quarterback with a lower football IQ than Jimmy. But at least Darnold can move and is young. I don't know. I'd like to see Darnold on a team like Seattle that can actually run the ball.
Yeah, see, that was me last year. And then once after those first 4 games, they got in that hot start, he just was bad. He might have been the worst quarterback.
He's bad. Yeah.
I can't do that. I'll take Jimmy. At least cliche Kyle Shanahan. At least I know what I get with Jimmy. I get a winner, a leader, a guy I like.
That's my problem with Jimmy, though. That's my problem. I know exactly what I get. Okay. That's enough of Jimmy for today.
Works for Subway.
Let's preview this team. Let's break it down. This team was 10-7 last year, a wild card team, not particularly dominant, but when you look at their ranks, I mean, their defense ranked 3rd. They gave up the 3rd fewest yards of any defense in the league last year, and their offense ranked 7th. They had gained the 7th most yards in the league, averaged 6.1 yards per play on offense, gave up 5.1 yards per play on defense. I mean, that's dominant. It's supposed to be, I mean, with numbers like that, you should be in the Super Bowl or winning it. They didn't. They came close. Now, I want to talk about what you expect for this year. Let's talk about offense. What aspect of the 49ers offense do you expect to improve the most from last year?
There's kind of plenty of ways you can really go with it, but I think I'm going to hedge most of my bets on, just the deep threat, actually utilizing more than 5 yards in front of you from the line of scrimmage. It's funny how many times you see Jimmy Garoppolo's yardage. I think there's even a stat up there where Jimmy had, in terms of passing yards, there's a stat out there where I think it's passing yards per throw where it's like the most, but when you actually look at it for air yards, he doesn't have the most. I think that's where we're going to make the huge jump with Lance, whether it's a straight drop back, whether it's the play action boot, which I think they're going to utilize a lot more because where the hell was that last year? I felt like they didn't use it a lot. And that's how Jimmy couldn't move at all. Yeah. So I think that's a huge different facet you're now going to see from his bigger chunk plays from the ground aerial game, and maybe even just overall as well. Because if there's a boot play and you have Lance going around a loop running it, he could just take off and just get a chunk play of 15 yards. I mean, you would hope more, but I don't think he's the fastest person to rip off a big gainer like that. But I think that's where you can see it.
I like that a lot. I'm going to go with something different, though. I'm going to go with the run game. Because we always think of the Niners as having this dominant run game because they commit to it. And they can have these games where they run the ball 40, 45 times and just destroy you. But their efficiency was down last year. I mean, they averaged 4.3 yards per carry. That was 16th in the league. That's, as average as it gets. Now, I don't know. I know some people look at like DVOA and other things, and I don't really look at stats that I can't calculate myself because I'm an English major, and that's just how I roll. I'm just saying, You know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe part of the reason they had a lower yards per carry is because they're running the ball a lot with leads late in the game. There's factors, but still, I think their yards per carry is going to be way up this year. Way up. Because they're going from playing 10 on 11 football to 11 on 11 football. Deebo Samuel is way too talented. Elijah Mitchell is way too talented for this team to be right in the middle of the pack of yards per carry. I think they're going to be above 5 yards a carry. I think that's what the Trey Lance effect is going to have on this team. I think they're going to be like 5.1 yards per carry. And if you want to look at like some past press into that, go back and look at the Niners efficiency stats from 2011 to 2012 when they had Alex Smith doing 10 on 11 football and then Colin Kaepernick coming in playing 11 on 11. I mean, it gives you at least an extra half a yard per carry, usually. So I think that's going to be big. Their running game. They could run for 3,000 yards this year.
Yeah, I think I should save it for the next point because I got to push back for what you're saying.
Okay, we'll go to the next point right now. Real quick, Ben Meyerson says, I thought this regime had no leaks. Yeah, until this year, right? I don't know what's going on with that. Very strange.
Look, I believe they have some leaks. It's just not often or sometimes a heavyweight, but they leak. They leak.
Yeah. And one more thing. Official BNA Music 88. I missed one of his comments last time I did a show. He said, and I quote, breaking news, Trey takes naps. The body fatigue might be a real concern. That's hilarious. And that's pretty much what's happening with Trey Lance right now. Anytime he does anything, it's not good enough. And to me, that is a function of Jimmy still being on the roster. As long as Jimmy's here, even from Trey's own front office, nothing he does is going to be good enough until he wins a Super Bowl, until they really go all in. Because as long as Jimmy's here, it's Hedge City, Hedge Central. Anyway, thanks for the comment, BNA Music 88.
That's a great one.
Biggest offensive regression for the 49ers since last season. What do you expect?
I think it's the one you thought it was going to be good. The run game, I think that's going to regress because
without Deebo?
Yes, without Deebo. And I think in terms of, I'm not going to get more yards per carry. Maybe that will get better. Maybe you're right on that point. I think they're going to lose explosive play yards. They're going to use explosive plays. So whatever, how many much their 15 plus, 20 plus yards runs they made off, I think you're going to see less of that because I'm going to sell Lance as capable of doing more than just a handful of those this year because I saw how he ran this last year. He's not like what people compare him to, like the Cam Newton or even Colin Kaepernick. He's not as fast as those guys. He's not shifty. He looked really like an off-balance runner, like he lacks the feel of what to do with the ball in his hands. So I'm not saying he won't be efficient. I'm sure he'll be enough to get that clutch like first down that's like 7 to 10 yards, but I'm going to sell on that like he's going to be ripping off 15 plus gainers like he's Lamar freaking Jackson. I mean, no, those guys were great because they're extremely, extremely raw with the football in their hands. Now, another standpoint, running backs, like you said, Elijah Mitchell, Deebo Samuel, like I expect Deebo Samuel to see a significantly reduced role, if not completely erased. So in Mitchell, I'm not sure how much better he's going to get in terms of explosiveness. You know, Jeff Wilson Jr., we've seen he's done a bit before, but how many carries he gave me, he's going to get. You know, Ty David Price, they brought him in to be the bruiser, the bulky back. I'm going to sell on them being like, that's going to be the explosive, like, you know, like we said weeks ago, that the home run capability, I think that's going to really be diminished.
I feel that. One thing I'm going to say is that last year, Deebo Samuel averaged 7.4 yards per carry from shotgun formations. And now with Trey Lance doing this 11 on 11 football from the gun, I mean, even if he's not the runner that Lamar Jackson is, you still have to account for him because if you don't, he'll have, you still have to account for him. So it's going to create more space in the gun. I mean, theoretically, Deebo could average 8 yards a carry. I know, and I don't know how much he's going to run, but if that's a weapon and Deebo refuses to do that, I couldn't imagine. But like, man, you want to score a touchdown? He scored 6 touchdowns from the gun last year. Like that's your money maker. And you only got to do it like twice a game. But to your point, if you want explosive plays, put Deebo and Trey in the zone read together and see what happens. Because it could.
Yeah, if you told me Deebo was just gonna have his role reduced in half, the running game is gonna be improved. That's gonna be sweet. So to play around with, and you even have usage you can mess around with if you just want to go like backside or something.
Yeah. All right. Let me do mine. So that's a good one. That's interesting. The run game. Okay. Let's talk third down offense. So last year, the Niners were 14th in third down offense. Pretty mediocre considering they had Deebo, Kittle, and Ayuk. But a lot of that had to do with the quarterback and a lot of that had to do with the offensive line. Now they have a quarterback who can protect himself and scramble. And he's going to scramble for a bunch of first downs. But I think it's possible that third down offense is going to get worse this year. It's going to go down. And I don't think it has that much to do with Lance. I think it has more to do with the pass protection. This team is built to run the ball, but in terms of pass protection, they have one good pass protector, their left tackle. And especially at center. On third down, if you don't have a good center, that's when you get all those exotic fronts. You know what I mean? You get all the overload blitzes and you get defenses trying to confuse essentially the center. Because on the Niners, the center's the one telling everyone who to block, picking out blocking assignments.
Yep.
And Alex Mack is good at that. If you have someone who can at least get that right, you give your offensive line a chance. Hronis Grasu 2 years ago was getting destroyed on A-gap blitzes and this kind of stuff on third down, and it really hurt the whole offense. I think third down pass protection in general is going to be worse, and I think that's going to affect them on third down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you even saw it last year. The pass protection wasn't so great. I mean, it came through like a lot of situations, but it wasn't like great. Like something you can go out and feel comfortable about. I mean,
Tom Compton was freaking awful in pass protection.
Yeah,
he was terrible.
And especially when it's like it got to like 3rd and 7 plus. Like if they weren't under 3rd and 7, you had zero feel that they were gonna. They chose to run it a lot of times in those situations. So I mean, number one, that quarterback, because you couldn't get the ball out or figure out where he was going with it or deliver it accurately. But that's also an indictment on the pass protection. Because even if you have a flimsy quarterback, if you like, hey, at least we're gonna give him time to like hopefully get someone to develop. Hopefully our receivers win, and then he just delivers somewhere in the range. But yeah, I think to me that was always more of an indictment on pass pro than not, because how long are you holding up? But then again, when you're a defense, it's kind of easy to tell what the offense is going to do. If they're going to run it, you're thinking, oh, hell yeah, great, run it, please. Do us a favor. And then at that point, you're just going to sell out for the pass. That's where you get those, like you said, overload blitzes where the center is going to be like, where the hell, where's this guy going? Where's the mic? Where the hell is 56 going? So I think that's where, that I can see that definitely, especially if they are in those 3rd and 7 plus situations again,
right?
Where Lance just says hike, he's barely on his 2nd or 3rd step in the drop back, and already someone's getting blown by. That's why it's like the interior offensive line is a huge question mark, and that's that's always still been my concern for the last like 4 months about this offense. It's like if none of these guys look good, like who knows? We know what Brunskill is, but is he still going to be able to repeat what he's done? McGlinchey coming back, who the hell is the center and the left guard? I mean, great. The left guard is supposed to be good because he's playing next to Trent Williams. Trent Williams was going to block Aaron Banks' guy. Like, come on. We got at some points, these guys are going to do stuff of their own. Yeah.
I mean, like last year, Tom Compton was a liability in pass protection, but at right tackle, if that's your one liability in pass protection, like he would get run over, but the quarterback still has an opportunity to get the ball out. If there are things you can do, you can get the ball out of your hands quick. If you have instant pressure in your face right at the A-gap, you're screwed. There's nothing you can do unless you're Kyler Murray and you can run away. And maybe Trey Lance can do that sometimes, but he's not a 4-3 runner. I really, if you get that A-gap pressure instantly, you're screwed. It screws the whole offense. And I'm not saying Jake Brendel's going to be that guy that Hronis Grasu was, because from everything they say, he's very smart and he should be able to do that stuff. But I don't know. Can he block? We'll see. He actually hasn't played much. I have no idea what to expect.
That's why in situations like that, you always saw Kittle always like helping him pass pro too. Yeah. Just that's where you really saw his targets diminish.
And yeah, they got to stop that. I mean, you need Kittle in the pattern on all third downs, not just some of them. So yeah, okay. Third down offense. Let's go to defense. What do you think the biggest defensive improvement will be since last season on a squad that finished 3rd in total yards allowed? 3rd fewest.
Yeah, they were. But I think you're gonna see them more of a better man coverage team like you saw in 2020. I think they got the secondary to do it. I know this nickel slot corner is still a huge question mark. Who the hell is even gonna be starting there? Anyone's guess is better than mine probably. But I'm just focused on the 2 outside corners and even who they have behind them. Travarius Ward is very capable man coverage corner. Manny Mosley really came on in 2020, and I think he is still capable of it. Probably better zone, but still, I think he's capable of it. Just given the skill sets, at least I think he can do it. Keep his feet. He has good hips, be able to turn, keep his guy in front of him for the most part, or knows how to play trail. And then after that, behind him, God forbid you get Jason Verrett out there, then okay, great. Now you have arguably probably the best man coverage corner out there if you can still pick up the pieces where he left off in 2020. Now you all of a sudden you have yourself a phenomenal, man coverage defense, because we already know Jimmy Ward can come in the nickel and slot, and maybe that's who you do use as your nickel corner guy. You use him in passing obvious situations on third down to lock up whoever's inside, and then you just throw Hufanga up top, maybe kick in even more Tavarius Moore to play like a blanket zone with those two. There's a lot of different ways you can really go with it, I think, for DeMeco Ryans. But ultimately, I think now you have that flexibility to be more confident that you can call more man coverage plays.
Yeah, I'm with you on this, and I think this is going to manifest itself in their third down defense because last year they were. I mean, for a top 3 defense, you with that pass rush, you'd expect they'd be a top 10 unit on third down, but they were 21st, way worse than they should have been. And if you remember, it's because they played soft on third down. They were more concerned about giving up the big play, even on 3rd and 10, than giving up the first down. So when they got beat, a lot of times it was outside. It was Ambry Thomas and Emmanuel Mosley just playing Josh Norman playing too soft at the sticks on 3rd and 12, getting beat by AJ Brown or Odell Beckham Jr. That happened a lot. I think the whole point is bringing in Charvarius Ward is the Niners understood that they were playing super soft on 3rd down and want to improve. So I think they're going to let him play bump and run coverage. They might let Mosley do it too. It may work out. I'm still curious to see what happens at slot because a lot of times the team's best chain mover is the slot receiver.
Yep.
So if the Niners have a liability at nickel, they're going to really stink on 3rd down still. So I'm not saying they do have a liability, but I don't know who they have there. We'll see.
That's gonna be tough. That's why I think like we'll see Jimmy Ward kick down there more. I feel like he didn't get kicked down there a lot last year as we
that could happen.
Past.
That could happen. You could put him down there and go with Hufanga and Moore at safety on 3rd down. You could do something.
Yeah. At least
probably a better option than putting Denard.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, At least, like I said, the third, they're not going to keep him there, obviously, the whole time. But yeah, for like, it's like 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 10, even 3rd down, whatever. If you feel confident,
like to put him on the tight end in those situations because as good as he might do against the slot receiver, he's going to do much better against the tight end. But I guess it's what the team needs. And if you're facing a team with a better slot receiver than tight end, depends, right? Like if you're facing the freaking Rams, like, are you more worried about Kupp or Higbee? Who do you need Ward on? Put him on Kupp.
Exactly. That matters.
He's not going to shut down Kupp, but he'll do better than anyone else.
Like they're playing the AFC West this year. They're going to have a bunch of like hard matchups against tight ends. I mean, pretty much just
Darren Waller.
Or do the Chargers have one good one? I don't know. I just know, you got Kelsey and Darren Waller. So, I mean, that's something that you're definitely going to say, you know what? Let's try to put Jimmy. I mean, that's the thing you're going to be scared about Jimmy Ward. He'd probably be able to like man up on them and stay with them, but he might get outbodied, boxed out. So I wonder what's going to happen there. That's going to be the huge curious one. But
if the Niners give him that number 1 matchup every week, the slot guy or the tight end guy, and he does well, he could finally make that Pro Bowl because if he shut down some wide receivers, he'd get a little bit more high. Because his whole thing is, look, I'm not getting interceptions, but that's because I'm playing man coverage and not getting target. I'm shutting people down. He needs to get more recognition for that. So maybe if he got some more matchups against high-profile wide receivers, he'd get the recognition.
I'd even argue if he did it consistently, like majority of them he won, did well. I'd even say he earned all pro garners because like you got a guy who can play up top well, support the box, and come in and lock up your guy. What the hell? We're talking about a guy who's like Neapolitan. He hits all 3 flavors perfectly.
It's just so hard to cover in the middle of the field. I mean, it's hard to cover anyway. But outside, you have the you were a corner. You have the sideline to help you. It's like a 12th defender. In the middle of the field, it's tough.
Nickel, dude. Nickel's so hard because it's just you have the sidelines. That's why it's so easy. It's like I'm gonna guard this wall here. Yeah. I know, and you have a much better sense of how much space is back there, especially if you're like doing a bailout, which is why I love cover 3 a lot of times. But nickel, that's why I loved K'Wan Williams. 2019, he was my favorite defensive player because not only was he, holding on to any type of run, you pretty much are wide open in terms of what you can get attacked on the route, but you got to play run defense, and he was a blitzer. My God, he was doing it all.
Yeah. Matthew Roberts says, thank you for your unbiased constant info. Thank you very much, Matthew, for your
just don't ask me about SJSU content. I will be biased about that.
David Fales, I still think he's going to work out one day. He's going to be an NFL Pro Bowler.
Okay.
All right.
We got Tyler Irvin in there. It's all good.
Yeah, he's fast. All right.
Yeah, he's fast.
Where do you think the biggest regression will be on the 49ers defense since last season?
Shoot. I was going to say big plays, but they kind of did already allow a bunch of big plays last year. And I was going to say that because the Talanoa Fung is going to be a liability, but I don't wonder if it's like, I'm just going to stick with that. I think it's even going to be a little worse because if they were already kind of skeptical, pretty much on the fence and, leaning more towards on the backside of being burners with even Tart there for the most part. I mean, Hufanga, I think, especially early on, because he's really going to he's going to take a lot of lumps in the chin. It's going to be a lot of hiccups for him. I think he's going to see a lot of up and down. I don't think he's going to be terrible, but I mean, he's really going to be tested. They're going to go after him. They're going to go after him. They're going to look at last year's tape and be like, we could trick this guy and see how much he's how much he's improved on, how D'Amico Ryan somehow I'm wondering how D'Amico Ryan's going to somehow protect it, because you can't really protect someone too much on defense. And I think that's where the pass rush, we're going to have to come in. You got to get there, get to the quarterback, disrupt the play as much as you can, and hope your corners hold on so he's not in a position where they can pick on him or drag him out of his disciplined coverage.
Yeah, I mean, the safety's supposed to be the guy helping the DBs.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is the Niners at their best on defense has always been a defense that generates a pass rush and doesn't give up big plays. And that's been there. I mean, they're not a super aggressive defense. They don't blitz a lot. They don't play a lot of man-to-man, like press, but that's their, just don't give up the big play and sack the quarterback, hit him enough, and you'll win. Tart helped in that. Tart was not a great safety. He was extremely limited. But that was one of the things he brought to the table. I don't know what Hufanga brings to the table. He's a 5th-round pick who's not particularly, doesn't have high-end athleticism. He's supposed to be instinctual. I hope his instincts don't get him into trouble, because that's kind of what happens to certain instinctual players, right? They like run themselves out of the play. They had a feeling they were wrong.
Yeah.
They can't recover. So I don't know if that's going to be him. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying the Niners should have brought back Tart. I'm not saying, I just don't know that either one is necessarily the solution for them. It's a good call. But I got something else. Run defense. Like, some happened last year. Remember, the Niners were really bad. Not really bad, but they were 3-5. And it wasn't just their offense. It was their defense. They couldn't stop the run. And I'm looking real quick. Let me give you the numbers. So from week 1 on, this was what they gave up on the ground. 116, 151, 100, 105, 94, 148, 176, 162. That's a rough way to start the year in that wide 9 defense. They couldn't stop anything.
And when did they change at that?
All of a sudden, that Rams game, man. The Rams game, they give up 52 rushing yards. And next week, 54. Next week, 67. Then they give up 146 to Seattle, but like 80 of that was a fake punt. Then after that, 86, 62, 90, 86, 64, 77, 67, 70. I mean, they really shut down the run. I'm not saying it was one player. There were a few changes that
DJ Jones stepped up. Eric Armstead finally got kicked in, which please keep him there. Jesus, please keep him there.
Yes,
let your players do good. Come on.
DJ Jones, Eric Armstead, Samson Ebukam.
So those two to me.
Yeah. DJ Jones is gone. Tart, who is a solidifying factor in this defense, not a playmaker, is gone.
It's good to come up.
I think this run defense could struggle, not necessarily like on the edges, but right up the gut. Unless Javon Kinlaw finally is the player they wanted him to be, and he plays 17 games and he's just a rock like DJ Jones. And if that doesn't happen, I think they got a problem with their interior run defense. And I think they're going to go from a team that gave up 4.3 yards per carry last year, which was excellent. I mean, that ranked 7th. No, excuse me. They gave up 4 yards a carry, just 4.0, 7th best in the league. I don't know if they can do that again. They might be closer to the league average, which is fine. I don't know how important run defense really is anymore. It's a pass-first league, but part of the reason they turned their entire season around was all of a sudden they went from having no run defense to a great run defense overnight.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you actually are able to flip your players around, know where to put them in their best skill set. I mean, but yeah, it's more than just Armstead. It's even more than DJ. I mean, is it more than DJ Jones? Because D'Amico Ryans was really raving this guy like damn near every week. So I mean, yeah, you got Kinlaw's got to step up, keep Armstead there, and then hopefully you got other players in your depth like Maurice Hurst, because Maurice Hurst Jr. will actually play decent there. He used to be a decent run defender with the Raiders. You hope he can do that stuff, and whoever else in that back end you could help Kip and plug into that middle.
Russ Button says Richard Sherman was slow but played the game from the neck up. That's true. He compensated for his speed with savvy. Can Hufanga do that? That is so true. And the thing is, Sherman was a 5th-round pick. And I just got another guy popped in my head. Sherman didn't play Hufanga's position, but there is carryover there. Merton Hanks did. You remember Merton Hanks. Merton Hanks was the free safety in the 90s for the Niners, and he would have like 5 picks a year. He was great. He was the funky chicken dude. He was great. 5th-round pick. And they drafted him to play corner, but he was too slow. He was like, again, I think he was a 4.6 guy like Hufanga, and he did have the instincts, and he was a great safety. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, 5th-round DBs lacking athleticism have done it before. There is precedent. I think those guys are the exception, but it doesn't mean Hufanga can't do it. And look, if he had done it a couple of times in games, made a play on a ball, I'd say, okay, he's shown it. He's shown it a couple of times in practice, but I haven't seen it in a game yet. I haven't.
Yeah, this is what – Grant, I feel like I say this all the time. We talk about Hufanga being a liability. I think the only way he's going to be able to overcome it is he's got to play smarter. He's got to have good instincts. He's got to really nail on the head. He's got to play neck up. And the only way he can really compensate for his slow speed, agility, all that stuff, he's going to have to really have that great eye presence, great instincts. play recognition, be there. Don't bite on the fakes. You really got to make up with it, because if you're able to play fast in your head, then your body will be there to be able to match it. You won't be able to get blown up like that in coverage.
Yeah, because like he's going to have opportunities. I mean, again, you don't have to have 4.3 speed to play single high safety. On third down, you're going to have Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward's going to be covering someone man-to-man, either a tight end or a slot receiver. And if Hufunga's in the game playing safety, he's probably going to be playing single high a lot. Can he make plays? Can he, defend both hashes? Can he break up some passes? Can he intercept some passes? If so, he's an upgrade over Jaquiski Tartt, because Jaquiski Tartt made one play from single high I can ever remember my entire life. It was week 1, 2017, great interception against Cam Newton. Never made a play ever again in his life, at least on a ball that I can remember. So that would be great. That'd be great. Merton Hanks is official BNA Music 88's cousin. That's tight, because he's one of my favorite Niners of all time. The dude was dope.
Sick.
Super great. Okay, last topic of the day. Who is the most underrated player on this team? I like to give out this award before training camp every year. In the past, it's gone to Kyle Juszczyk. He's usually in the running. Who would you give the most underrated player award to on this team?
Well, I feel like I kind of did that last week with Emmanuel Mosley, so I'm going to go a different direction and go Azeez Al-Shaair.
I like that.
Azeez Al-Shaair, I think maybe some Niner fans now kind of sing his praises pretty tough, but I feel like it's not loud enough, but especially it's not nowhere near even blinked or a thought for a second in a twinkle of anyone's eye anywhere outside of the Bay Area. He really was arguably better than Fred Warner last year. It's pretty crazy to see. I say this every time I got to talk about him. That Seattle game pretty much is the one that really bought me into this guy's a real deal. He stepped in without Warner. He looked better than Warner in that game. My God, it was all over the freaking place. Pass deflection, forced fumble, I think. Runs, everything. He did freaking everything, and it's nuts to see. That's the linebackers that all these teams want, so that way they don't have to run extra safeties, because that way you have someone who can play one coverage, come up and run support, and if you need him to dial up a blitz, then you got him right there. So to me, it's easily Azeez Al-Shaair. I think he's going to step in. I think people are going to forget about him until he starts making plays early on in the season. It wouldn't shock me to see him make a play in the Bears game, because Justin Fields is going to be prone to at least 10 mistakes because he has no help. So I think he's really going to stand out in that game early on, and I think that's where he's going to finally start seeing some traction gain to his name.
Yeah, I agree. He was a big story last year, and I thought that he was their best run defending linebacker. As good as Fred Warner is,
he was.
A lot of Fred Warner's value is coverage. Azeez hits harder, is in the backfield more often. And Warner's good against the run, but Azeez is better. Mm-hmm. And I think what's also interesting is I think he's playing out of position. I think he's a Mike. I think he could be one of the best Mike linebackers in the league. And he's not playing there because Warner plays there. But as you saw, when Warner missed a game, Azeez had his best game of the year. I think people saw that. I don't think the Niners are going to re-sign him, because I don't think they can afford. I think he's going to get a lot of money, and I don't think they can afford two. I don't think you should be spending big money on two linebackers. So he's going to go somewhere and be someone's Pro Bowl Mike linebacker, probably. I would think. So that's a good one. I got someone else, and I like that you went run defense on this one, because I'm going run defense. So I'm sticking defense. Samson Ebukam. So to me, I was looking at what happened with this run defense last year, where it could go from putrid the first half of the season to great, and there were a few changes. A big one was moving Armstead from defensive end to defensive tackle. I never liked the Armstead at defensive end thing. It was like remember Red Bryant on the Seahawks? He was 360 pounds. He played DN. He was setting the edge. It was it's great. Okay. But what if the quarterback runs? What about containing the quarterback in the pocket? Because quarterbacks run a lot now, and Armstead could never do that, and it wasn't his fault because he was playing out of position. They put him at D tackle. He's better at everything. But you can only do that if you actually have a defensive end who can do all the things, who can contain the quarterback and stop the run. And that's what Ebukam does really, really well. He's a decent pass rusher, but, you can't run at his side. You can't bootleg to him. You can't zone read to him. You can't scramble to him. Honestly, all that stuff, he'd be better off going at Bosa, who's very good against the run too. So I think Ebukam is extremely underrated and underappreciated.
And they played him on those early downs too. They're to really put him as an orange cone to the side.
They used him as a designated pass rusher early in the season. That's the wrong way to use him. That's the opposite. And now they get it. He's your first down guy. And then you bring in someone like Kamoko Toure or Drake Jackson to spell him on third and long, of course. But that first down pass rush run defense is very important, because if you can stop the run on first and second down, it's 3rd and 8. instead of 3rd and 2. So I do think Ebukam is very important. And a lot of people this year were looking at the Niners cap space saying, well, they can just cut Samson Ebukam and hold on. Because if you cut him, then you got to put Armstead back at defensive end. And I really believe he's a liability at defensive end. Not his fault. He's not his position. He's an excellent defensive tackle and a not good defensive end. And I think the Niners are just stuck in the past trying to play 300-pound players at DN. Like, no, quarterbacks are too dynamic. You got to have dynamic players in the edges, and they have it now in Samson Ebukam. I mean, there was a reason the Rams were so good against Kyler Murray and freaking Russell Wilson all those years, and the Niners weren't. This guy helps. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yep. And plus, those are the two teams. It's funny you mentioned like the Rams, Cardinals. They are more prone to throw on early downs because they don't have that philosophy like, oh, we got to run the ball. I mean, maybe McVay does a little bit, but I mean that's only because it's Kyle Shanahan tree. Ultimately, they want to throw and throw often. So, all right, cool. Ebukam's capable of rushing early. Let's go run with them.
Yeah, and if you want more pass rush, you can always bring in someone else. But run defense is important because if you're just giving up 5 yards a carry, you're going to get run on. Period. Even if the team is good at passing, like it's free. It's like taking candy from a baby at that point. So you got to put up some resistance. And again, what I like about Ebukam is he's like, to me, the modern edge setter. He's not 275 pounds. He's 255. He's freaking jacked. He can set the edge. But if you try to bootleg to him, he's in your quarterback's face. He's so good at being disciplined and not falling for the fake that really you shouldn't bootleg to him. What you should, if you want to bootleg to the right, which is the quarterback's dominant throwing side, you probably need to pull a blocker over there and bring some, you got the things you got to do. You might as well just roll left or just stay in the middle of the pocket. So I think there's value in that because to me, when Armstead's out on the defensive end, I can't get over how detrimental that is to the structure of the defense. And again, it's not his fault. He's playing out of position. It's a big one. Ebukam to me.
And it's not even so much that Ebukam or whoever would be playing in that role who they necessarily have to get to the quarterback because it's kind of hard to get to those speedy quarterbacks as long as you make the run go wider. Whereas if you're going up against Armstead or someone slower, you're pretty much just turning it up where the numbers are at right there. Mm-hmm. But at least if you're Ebukam, you're faster. All of a sudden, you're Murray, for example. You're running closer to the sideline. Now you got to tiptoe in instead of what looks like a 10-yard gain. You made it like a 3-yard gain. So yeah. And that gives more time for the linebackers to get over. I think that's what they always say is like set the edge, not even just set the edge on the defensive line. It's like force everything inside, force things to your teammates. Yep. So if you're Ebukam, you get beat. It's like, all right, great. In a way, you're kind of forcing him to your teammates by giving time to your linebackers, your safeties, your corners to get off the receivers and come up. So as everything is always a delay play. So that's even a positive play too, not necessarily just getting the pressure.
Also, I feel as every season goes on, containing mobile quarterbacks is more important. I mean, it used to be 15 years ago, there were very few mobile quarterbacks, and it was all about just sort of getting the quarterback off his spot. It's not good enough anymore. I mean, Armstead can't just bull rush in against a offensive tackle, get the quarterback off his spot, because what's going to happen against a lot of quarterbacks is like Carson Wentz, Josh Allen. We saw it happen a lot a couple of years ago. You're just going to scramble out to the right, and big play is going to happen. A huge freaking play is going to happen. And to me, Armstead was inviting it, or really the defensive coordinator was inviting it by playing Armstead out there. With Ebukam, you should stay in the pocket. You're better off staying in the pocket because as soon as you leave his side, he's going to get you. If you're staying there, I mean, he's not a great pass rusher. He doesn't have a bunch of moves. He's strong. He has a bull rush. He strains to the whistle, but you're better off staying in the pocket, buddy. Yeah, and for a guy like Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray, that's not good news. It's really not good news. So I like a guy like that.
I was wondering what Chris Kosarek always thinks every time they try to play like his players out of position like that, or just maybe not out of position, but like taking away their strength. It's like if you're Kosarek, it's just like, why are you playing my guy there, man? Now you're making me look dumb because like I think you make it look like I can't coach when I can. I can't only imagine. I'm saying to play him over here, and you're over here making us waste. Yeah. Come on.
I got a ton of respect for Robert Saleh, but I frequently didn't understand his vision for certain players, and he was always about having Armstead play the end. And I guess I get it. Like theoretically, a 6'7" high cut dude like that shouldn't be a good run defender inside because he's high cut and you're kind of prone to getting double teamed and someone taking out your legs. But
that's more explosive players.
Actually, he's a good run defender inside. He's better than you would think. And to me, there's nothing he does well on the defense. Now, if you're going up against a team with a statue at quarterback, you can play Armstead at DN. He'll set the edge out there. But if the quarterback can move, Armstead's not going to be a pass rusher. He's not going to contain him. It's not going to do much good. And he could do a lot bad. And that's not his fault again. So That was Saleh's thing. I think he got it from Pete Carroll. Carroll liked using that big 350-pound DN on base downs, Red Bryant. That's a thing of the past. You don't do that anymore. And D'Amico doesn't do that.
And 2019 was like Armstead's first real year of seeing majority of his pass rush snaps, or just even a lot of snaps inside, right? I know you want to give credit to number one, he was finally healthy. Number two, he's playing next to Buckner, but he was always playing next to Buckner. I mean, that year, it's like you finally start to get the stars to align, and you see him finally hitting his stride. And even last year, he didn't have – well, he had DJ Jones next to him. DJ Jones was pretty damn good. But still, he was able to really make a force of his own without even having a threat next to him, because it's not like people were going to double DJ Jones. So they finally got that little niche with him.
First thing the Niners did when they got here was move Eric Armstead to Leo and draft Solomon Thomas. They really didn't get that right. Like, what are you doing? You thought Solomon Thomas was going to – and then they had to move Armstead back to D-tackle and try Solomon Thomas as an edge rusher. Remember how bad Solomon Thomas was as an edge rusher? Wow. I mean,
Solomon Thomas 2020 said literally said out loud, like, literally screamed at the podium, my money makers inside. It's like, God, if that wasn't an indictment on your franchise, but we've always known these guys don't play their people in position, right? Like, look everywhere, top to bottom. They've always done this. They don't play.
Solomon Thomas's moneymaker was the combine. Let's be clear. He hasn't done anything in the NFL to earn him money. But his moneymaker in the NFL was the combine.
That's true. Yeah.
He is human Velcro as a pass rusher.
But there was a difference that I saw, at least. Like, okay, he's actually serviceable inside versus outside. It's like, what are you doing?
Was he serviceable in the Raiders last year? His numbers weren't anything special, but he actually got in the back.
Yeah, he was.
Disengaged for a change?
Inside, he was serviceable. Okay. Yeah, rotational, serviceable.
Right.
But that's pretty much his ceiling. He was fine.
Yeah.
Just a little rotation, getting in there for like 10, 15 snap types.
Is he still on the team?
No, he's with the Jets now. I wonder why.
Yeah, exactly right. You gotta love Robert Saleh's loyalty. See what he can do with him. How he uses them. I'm curious. What's the vision for Solomon Thomas in year 6? Curious. Anyway, I don't know why we're talking about Solomon Thomas. Most underrated player. Anyone on offense you would give this to? Trey Lance.
Offense.
Jimmy.
Who'd you say? No. Yeah, I would give someone.
Right? It's always offense.
I'd give it not Kyle Juszczyk, because I mean that's obvious. How about Jeff Wilson? Just because he's someone you could throw in a rotation. Not like you really do it like that, but you do have him for that capability for those 5 to 8 carries a game. And if God forbid you have a running back or two down, you could step in. You could still call the same offense you always did and just keep the ball rolling like nothing.
I like that. That's a good answer, Jeff Wilson.
Because other than that, I don't know who else could be considered underrated. I'd say I think Ayuk's perfect where he is. Debo, obviously, Kittle.
Yeah, man. I think you could almost argue that a lot of the players on the offense are overrated because of the Kyle Shanahan effect. Everyone thinks everyone on the offense has got the potential to be special because Kyle
if anything, it's be more on the overrated side. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Anyway, because a lot of people think the Niners are an offensive-driven team. It's a defensive-driven team.
Because when your head coach is a certain side of the ball, people just assume that's it. But that's why it's always crazy. When your head coach is that side of the ball, that should be your strength. That should be.
But it hasn't been ever on this team.
No, ever.
But again, that's Kyle's design. Like, he wants to draft defensive linemen first round every year. He says that. He really thinks he can scheme up the offense, and he, just needs that talent on the D-line. That's how he thinks too. So it's not necessarily an indictment of him. It's what he wants.
Said before in his inexperience, because when you go up against really tough defensive linemen, like the ones he is drafting, he says like it's really hard. It's like almost impossible to scheme around it and stuff like that. So I heard him say something like that.
But his offense is very much like it's a slow developing play offense. It's a lot of under center stuff, 7-step drops, play action. That's long developing plays.
Yeah.
And they get blown up by a quick pass rush. But the rest of the league is moving towards no huddle, spread, shotgun, quick throwing. And he doesn't want to do that. And that's a good way to neutralize a pass rush, right? I mean, the ball's out in 2 seconds. The guys haven't even disengaged with the blockers yet. Anyway, that's one. But that's not how he does offense, really.
Well, we're going to see how
Kelly sucked.
We're about to see if he becomes an evolution, if he elevates himself with having Trey Lance there, because there's no way in hell you're running any of those type of offenses with Jimmy Garoppolo. Hell no.
He's not smart enough, but Trey should be. I'd like to see them do some up-tempo stuff. They used to do it with Nick Mullins because he was smart enough. Wasn't good enough, but he was smart enough to do it. So I'd like to see them implement that, because I do think Nick Saban was talking about, I saw a little clip. Basically, like, defensive players are all about assignment, alignment, technique, right? Offense comes out, you see where they're lined up. Every player's like, okay, assignment, alignment, technique. As long as I get those 3 things, I can sort of do a good job on this play. But once you take the huddle out and once they're forced to, sprint to the line of scrimmage,
That's hard.
They're on their heels and they're not really thinking about alignment, assignment, technique. They're like, what do I do? Who's my guy? Where am I? And so I think what Kyle does is he forces defensive players to make mistakes through motion. Yep. Other guys do it through up tempo. He can do it through both. He can do it both ways, which is cool.
That's what I was about to say. Like you said, that's saving perfect all the money, assignment, alignment, technique. It's like that's the reason why he has to do all these moving parts, because all of a sudden it's like, wait, what's my assignment on the defense?
Exactly.
What's technique is always going to be there. Great, well, not always be there, because if you're in a different position, you get out of position, and now you got to backtrack to your original technique. So that's really hard. So that's what he does. I think that's where he really gets the most Raven, is because he's able to do that without such a rush thing, like a hurry up offense. But yeah, use both. If you're supposed to be a versatile coach, know how to use all your pieces and open up everything. Don't limit yourself. But again, now he doesn't have that excuse. He doesn't have that excuse. Barring Trey not looking great, then if he looks fine, just plays well. Doesn't even have to be that good. Just plays well. It's like he looks capable to throw him in and give him some chances. Then at that point, that's going to be a Shanahan problem to me. That's why I'll start getting that label.
I mean, I don't know if kids out there remember Peyton Manning, but he was this great quarterback, played most of his career with the Colts. And he made most of his career, what he would do is play would be blown dead. He'd rush everyone in the line of scrimmage, and he would just stand there for 20 seconds. And the defense would have to be prepared for a quick snap, but he would just stand there, no huddle, look at the defense, maybe put one guy in motion, figure out what they were going to do, call a play. He did that his whole career. I mean, I'm not saying everyone's good enough to do that, but I'd like to see. I know Jimmy's not. I think Trey might be able to do better than Jimmy, so I'd like to see that. Because I miss the days, and this is sort of before my time, but I miss the idea of quarterbacks calling their own plays. The league is just so coach-driven, like these coaches who are freaking control freaks. Would you let your quarterback make some decisions, please? Especially if he's great. I love that. I like watching a quarterback take control. Call your plays. It's your team. You're on the field. Tell a coach to shut up. Shut up! I'd love to see that one.
There's only several quarterbacks that do that now, and that's only because they trust these players after years. They don't do that for the early players, for sure. Hell no. Nah. Obviously Brady, obviously Rodgers.
But they probably didn't get that responsibility in high school or college. These coaches are too controlling. You need to empower these kids at a younger age. That would be my one tweak for football, man.
Yep. I know Derek Carr does that too. I mean, Trey Lance, when he was in college, he was the one that was calling his whole offense's protection. It wasn't the center that did it, so that was his credit. So I mean, maybe that. Hopefully, that translates to him taking on that maybe not that responsibility, but just showing that he can do the plays in the line of scrimmage and get his guys around.
Because one thing that kills me is the Kyle supporters and the Jimmy supporters always bash each other for losing the Super Bowl. Jimmy stunk in the fourth quarter. Well, Kyle didn't call any runs in the fourth quarter. One thing I'd like to say is, Jimmy, you're the quarterback. Kyle calls the play into you, but then you call the play to the team. You didn't like the runs? Call a pass. And I feel like in the 80s, I mean, I know that Joe Montana did stuff like that. He told my dad, or someone told my dad, there would be times where Bill would call a play and Joe Montana would come in with a smirk into the huddle and be like, you're not going to believe this shit. You're not going to believe this shit we're not running this. Do it. And the coach has a problem. Step up. You're the quarterback of the team. I mean, Steve Young wouldn't have a problem calling his own play. Joe Montana didn't have I'm tired of these quarterbacks who just are on the field and they're like a human joystick. Well, whatever the coach tells me to do is what I'm going to do, man. No, you don't have to. You can have some agency too, but maybe that's just a different era. Maybe they don't do it anymore. I miss it.
I just think there's a difference, because that's part of the reason I make those players great. And there's only so many great, let alone good quarterbacks. I mean, you're not going to expect that out of a Jimmy Garoppolo. You're not going to expect that out of a Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins kind of does that. No, Kirk Cousins.
But as a quarterback, you can't complain about the play calls if you're just going to listen to them and repeat them. Do something. You like something better? You want to run the ball? Call the run. And if it works, stare at your coach where the hell was that? Yeah, I called something else. I mean, these are competitors, right? I don't understand that. What happened to quarterbacks? They became so submissive. I don't get that. I mean, you're the highest paid. You make 5 times what your coach makes. Stand up to him, please. Anyway, that's our show. Thanks for watching. Jose, appreciate it. I'm back tonight. Niners After Dark with Jesse Naylor. See you guys late night. Not that late night.
After dark.